Do you remember the cartoons that we got back in the day that were based on video games? Back in the 80s and the 90s, us kids saw some pretty amazing cartoons grace our TV screen. From iconic cartoons like He-Man and G.I. Joe that brought us some amazing toy lines, to cartoons like Care Bears or the Smurfs that, looking back, remind us of exactly how innocent a time it was back then. There was a lot of competition for our viewership on a Saturday morning and throughout the week. And with the rise of video games in the home entertainment market, we saw companies like Nintendo and Sega doing their very best to get their characters more screen time with us kids. In this video, we're going to take a look at cartoons that came out that were based directly off of video games. From the first one in 1982 to the year 2000, some of the cartoons on this list just might be a blast from the past for a lot of us. Now, I'm not going to look at cartoons that we had video games based on. So no DuckTales, no Darkwing Duck, no G.I. Joe, and I'm sorry, no Pokemon on this list. But the very first cartoon that was ever created based on a video game is going to be an interesting one. Brought to us by Hanna-Barbera, a company that back in the day had so many awesome cartoons that a lot of us have really fond memories of. Flintstones, Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, Hanna-Barbera brought us amazing cartoons back in the day. And in 1982 on ABC brought us Pac-Man. Pac-Man premiered on ABC and actually ran for 44 episodes over 2 seasons from September of 1982 to November of 1983. And this was the very first cartoon ever based on a video game. It was actually the highest rated Saturday morning cartoon show in the US during late 1982. Now, what do you do with Pac-Man, the arcade game? How do you turn that into a cartoon? Well, this one follows the adventures of Pac-Man and his wife, Mrs. Pac-Man. But in this one, we're calling her Pepper Pac-Man. It also has their child Pac-Baby, their dog Chomp Chomp, and their cat Sourpuss. Now in this one, the family lives in Pac-Land, which is basically just a bunch of spherical buildings. They took the only real things they had from the Pac-Man arcade game, being those power pellets, and used them everywhere they could in this one. Now, most of the episodes take us on adventures following the Pac family, and really the only enemies we knew Pac-Man had at the time being those ghost monsters. Now, this one does have Inky, Blinky, Pinky, Clyde, and Sue, those ghosts, and they work for a character called Mesmeron, whose sole mission in this entire cartoon is to locate and control the source of the power pellets, which is the primary food and power source of the city. And the power pellets are what give Pac-Man all of his powers. Now, looking back on this, it is a little bit dated. It's not a bad cartoon. It's definitely a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. There wasn't a lot of story they had with Pac-Man. They kind of had to make up whatever they could. This is worth maybe watching an episode or two of to check it out. You can find it on YouTube. Would I watch a whole season of this? Probably not. Back in the day, it was probably super cool, because the whole world was kind of struck with that Pac-Mania for a while. So this one definitely is one that some of you might remember watching. In 1982, CBS brought us the Saturday Supercade. Now in the Saturday Supercade, they basically took a bunch of arcade games and just made cartoon series based on those characters. Within that Saturday morning Supercade, there was cartoons based on Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and Frogger as their 3 main ones. Now, what do you do with the character of Frogger from the arcade game? That's a pretty simple arcade game. Well, they just did exactly what they did with that Pac-Man cartoon. They took the character of Frogger and made him an ace reporter in the swamps. Frogger works for the Swamp Gazette, and he has some friends that he goes on adventures with, always trying to solve these crazy stories. Him, along with his friends Shellshock the Turtle and Fanny the Frog, are out on these adventures. Now again, pretty simple, basically just making stories up based on that character. Now we also had Donkey Kong. The cool thing about the Donkey Kong cartoon series inside the Saturday Supercade was that we actually had Donkey Kong as an escaped ape from the zoo or the circus, I guess, and Mario and Paulina are trying to track him down. Normally they're going on these adventures, they end up teaming up at the end. Sometimes they're hunting Donkey Kong down, sometimes Donkey Kong is kidnapping Paulina, just like in the video game, and Mario has to rescue them. Now, a cool thing about the Donkey Kong cartoon in the Saturday Supercade is that Mario is actually voiced by none other than Peter Cullen, who voices Optimus Prime and so many other iconic cartoon characters from our childhood. There's also that Donkey Kong Jr. cartoon in the Saturday Morning Supercade. And in this one, we're following as Donkey Kong Jr. tries to track down his father, Donkey Kong, who has escaped from the circus, where Mario is the ringmaster. Now, Donkey Kong Jr. teams up with this greaser character known as Bones. He has a motorcycle, and they go on adventures trying to find Donkey Kong. A cool thing about this one is the Donkey Kong Jr. character is voiced by Frank Welker, who is Megatron. And again, so many awesome characters from our childhood. Now, in the first season of the Saturday Morning Supercade, we also saw a Pitfall cartoon where we follow Pitfall Harry and his friends as he goes adventuring looking for treasures. There was also a Q*bert cartoon where, again, what do you do with that simple character of Q*bert? Well, they just put Q*bert and the enemies and friends from the Q*bert arcade game in like a 50s themed town, and he just goes on adventures. Q*bert's doing things like grooming dogs and stuff like that. Just whatever the writers could come up with. Now, Pitfall and Q*bert would rotate every week. So we had those three main cartoons in that Saturday Morning Supercade. And then that first season, every week, we would either get a Pitfall or a Q*bert, depending on the week. Now, in the second season of the Saturday Supercade, they actually kept Q*bert and Donkey Kong. They got rid of those other ones and brought in some shorter features that included Kangaroo and Space Ace from that Kangaroo arcade game and the Space Ace arcade game. Saturday Supercade is actually a pretty cool cartoon to watch. Find it on YouTube, check it out. It's neat to see those arcade characters and what they were thinking and what they brought into it. This is definitely an interesting one to maybe show your kids. Yeah, it is a little bit dated. Again, this is looking back to like 1983, 1984, but a cool one that some of us might remember watching as a kid. And remember seeing like that Donkey Kong character and that interesting version of Mario in that cartoon. In 1984, we got a Dragon's Lair cartoon, which was cool because it basically took the Dragon's Lair video game that was already cool animated looking and just made a cartoon out of it. Now, in this one, we follow along on the adventures of Dirk the Daring, who is the best knight in the kingdom of King Ethelred. Now, Dirk is performing all sorts of great deeds while trying to protect the kingdom and his love, Prince Daphne, from the evil forces of the Dragon Singe. Now, this one's cool because every time we got to a commercial break, it would actually leave us on a bit of a cliffhanger. And the narrator of the story would give us the options of what Dirk could do next, asking, what would you do? When it came back from that commercial break, it actually showed us what would happen with each of those options, and then continued the story based on the choice that Dirk made.
Singe had set a trap indeed. With Giddy Goons advancing from one direction and with Mudmen coming from the other, what would you do? Which way did you choose? If Dirk had gone to fight the Mudmen, this would have been his fate. Unfortunately, Dirk decided to attack the Giddy Goons instead.
I think that is super cool. It takes themes from the video game, brings it directly into the cartoon. This is actually one I would suggest checking out. The way they did it is really cool. I like what they did with the animation. They just took what we had in the arcade, brought it over to the cartoon. Definitely one you should check out. Also in 1984, we saw the cartoon of Pole Position. That one, they basically just used the name of Pole Position and that was it. It's very, very loosely based on the arcade game of Pole Position. It's not the greatest cartoon. The episode that I watched while I was gonna film this, I was like, what is this? It was kind of slow. I didn't really understand what was going on. Maybe an interesting one to check out a few more episodes, but if you ever played Pole Position and you want to check out the cartoon that we got based solely on the name, there's definitely a Pole Position cartoon that came out. Now in 1989, a big one for a lot of us kids came out, and it's going to be the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. The Super Mario Bros. Super Show was brought to us by Deke Entertainment, Nintendo of America, and Saban Entertainment, and this one was in syndication. Under the title of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, this one aired from September to December of 1989 in syndication. And this one is based on the video games of Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 2 by Nintendo. Now, a lot of us remember this for those live action segments that it had. Those starred WWF Hall of Fame wrestler and manager Captain Lou Albano as Mario and Danny Wells as Luigi, alongside a special guest that either played themselves or a character in those segments, with the remainder of that show being those animated stories of the Super Mario Brothers, also voiced by Albano and Wells as their respective characters. Now, from Monday till Thursday, we would get those Super Mario Brothers cartoons along with those live action segments. But on Fridays, that cartoon would change up and we would get that Legend of Zelda cartoon. Now, the Mario cartoons were, again, super loosely based on the video games that we had. For me, they always kind of didn't feel like they fit in with the video games. Those animated segments would feature Mario and Luigi after they were accidentally warped into the Mushroom Kingdom while trying to fix a bathtub drain. Each episode would begin with Mario reciting an entry into his plumber's log, and then he would team up with Luigi to assist Princess Toadstool and Toad to try to prevent King Koopa from taking over the Mushroom Kingdom with some sort of sinister plot, normally a parody of a book, a film, or a historical event. Now, despite being based on those video games, a lot of the episodes had some real inconsistencies, like star power in the cartoon, giving them the firepower. Well, we all know that's not actually how it works. It's kind of like the writers didn't really play the video games or know the video games in order to write some of these episodes. Now, the Legend of Zelda cartoons that we got on the Fridays, I actually liked a little bit more than the Mario cartoons we got. These segments followed the adventures of Link and Princess Zelda as they defended the kingdom of Hyrule from Ganon. Most of these episodes consisted of Ganon and his minions either trying to capture the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda, kidnap Zelda, or just straight up conquer Hyrule. Now, sadly, a lot of us are going to remember Link as that moany teenager, that self-absorbed character, and Zelda being maybe the more headstrong character in the series. And sadly, in the Legend of Zelda cartoon, Link ends up with that sarcastic catchphrase of, "Well, excuse me, princess."
Excuse me, princess.
Now, another Nintendo cartoon that a lot of us remember from 1989 is Captain N the Game Master. This one we would have seen on NBC. This one came to us from Deke Animation City and Nintendo of America. running from 1989 to 1991. This one included characters like Kid Icarus, Mega Man, and Simon Belmont from Castlevania. This one, a lot of us are always gonna remember because Kevin, the main character, had that Captain N jacket and that NES Zapper as his primary weapon. Now in this one, Kevin and his dog Duke are transported to video game land after being sucked into the ultimate warp zone through his television as he's playing Punch-Out! Now Kevin is destined to become the hero of Captain N and save video game land from Mother Brain. Now this one, I don't like what they did with a lot of the characters in this one. This is always going to be a classic cartoon when we think about video game cartoons, but what they did to Mega Man, Simon Belmont, and Kid Icarus in this series, I don't know. Even King Hippo, what did we do to some of these characters? Now this is a great one. This is one to look back on fondly, because back then we were just getting whatever they wanted to give us for these video game cartoons. Luckily, things do get a little bit better, but then they do also get drastically worse as we continue to look at these cartoons based on video games.
Captain N is zapping your way
I think that's my cue to kick it.
to defend Videoland from the forces of evil.
Captain N, weekdays at 3:30 on Fox.
Now in 1990, we got the sequel series to the Super Mario Bros. Super Show in The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3. Now this is the second animated series based on the Mario video game series, and this one is loosely based on the video game of Super Mario Bros. 3. Now unlike the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, this one, they dropped all that live action stuff. This one actually established a level of continuity in the story and introduced a set of characters called the Koopalings, based on those characters we saw from Super Mario Bros. 3. Except for some reason, they just gave them different names. Now these episodes were divided into 2 segments of around 11 minutes each, and each segment always opened with a title card featuring world map footage taken directly from the game of Super Mario Bros. 3. They also use power-ups and other elements from the game. Now, The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 focuses on Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Toadstool, who all reside in the Mushroom World. And most of those episodes, the 4 characters are trying to prevent attacks made by the Koopa King and the Koopalings to try to take over Princess Toadstool's Mushroom Kingdom. Now, this one is a little bit better for a Mario cartoon. Definitely feels a little more tied to the video game. I wish they would have just kept the names for the Koopalings. I guess they probably couldn't, but you know what? I would have much rather had that. It would have made it feel more like it was directly connected to the video games, but definitely maybe a little bit, just slightly better than the cartoon we saw in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Now, in 1990, we did see the cartoon of the Power Team on the Video Power Show. That only happened for that first season, and it consisted of characters from Narc, Wizards and Warriors, Quirk, Arch Rivals, and the video game of Bigfoot. Now, those cartoons only lasted in the first season of Video Power. We had those live action segments, and we had those cartoon segments jammed in there as well. In the second season of Video Power, they totally changed it up, made it into that game show style show that we used to watch, and totally got rid of those cartoons. So those only lasted for 1 season. So right when we think things are getting a little bit better with Nintendo cartoons, Nintendo brought us Super Mario World. Now this one at least has Yoshi in it. It's supposed to be based on the Super Mario World game, but for some reason we're in caveman times. I don't really understand this one. There's totally episodes where Mario is trying to install caveman style plumbing into their house. They're still battling with King Koopa. I just don't know what we're doing here. I don't know why we had to go this direction. I get that Yoshi is maybe a dinosaur, but why we had to go this direction, I do not understand what they're doing here. This one, I would watch the Mario Brothers 3 cartoon over this one. I would even watch Pole Position over this one. To be honest, this just isn't very good. I don't like what they're doing at all in the Super Mario World cartoon. Sorry if you enjoyed it, but you know what? This one is going to be, I think, the lowest one for those Mario cartoons on my list. I just don't really like this one. Now, in 1993, Sega decided to step in and bring us the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, don't get this confused with some of the other Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons that are really good. This original outing of Sonic in cartoon form, not the best. Now, this is another one that DiC Animation City was involved in. I don't really know what we were thinking here. This one is kind of a comical, lighthearted, gag-driven adventure series based on the character of Sonic the Hedgehog, who in this one is an arrogant, mischievous, yet kind-hearted teenager hedgehog with that power of supersonic speed. Now, this one does have Tails in it. It also has Dr. Robotnik as the primary bad guy, and he does use his robot henchmen of Scratch, Grounder, and Coconut, and Sonic is always trying to thwart their plans to take over their home planet of Mobius. Now, this one does have Jaleel White, Steve Urkel as the voice of Sonic. I don't know, the stories and the animation in this one never really hit with me. Again, it kind of felt like a Sonic cartoon that just kind of took some stuff from the video game and threw the rest out the window. Not the best outing for a Sonic cartoon, but there are some really good Sonic cartoons coming up in this list. In 1993, we got the cartoon version of Double Dragon. Now, this one is one of those ones that might be a blast from the past for some of us. I remember seeing this Double Dragon cartoon, but had totally forgot about it. Now, this one is based on that Double Dragon video game trilogy, and it ran for 26 half-hour episodes from 1993 till 1994. The premise of this one is that the brothers were separated at birth. Billy was raised by an elder martial arts master known as the Oldest Dragon, while his brother Jimmy, or Yimmy, depending on kind of which game we're looking at here, was raised by the evil Shadow Master as his second in command, the Shadow Boss. Now, when Jimmy is betrayed by the Shadow Master, he basically denounces everything evil and joins his brother to become the Double Dragons. This is kind of a cool cartoon. I like that it kind of builds the story. I like the idea of having these characters from the video games and just maybe tweaking them just a little bit. It still feels like it's Double Dragon, but it's just a different version. They don't go way off the path like some of these other cartoons do. Now, in the first season, we do see villains directly from the video games, but by the second season, everything they're bringing in, all the characters, all the villains, are made strictly for the cartoon. And in this case, I don't really mind that, just because we've kind of developed a bit of a story using those characters from the video game by the time we get to that second season. This one is totally worth watching, even now. It is a little bit dated, but Double Dragon, the animated series, is definitely one worth checking out. You can find the whole series on YouTube. Also in 1993, we got our first really good version, in my opinion, of a Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon with Sonic the Hedgehog. This one aired from 1993 to 1994 and featured a darker, more dramatic story than we'd seen in the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. This one features Sonic and a band of freedom fighters battling to overthrow Dr. Robotnik. In this one, Dr. Robotnik has conquered their home planet of Mobius and rules it, and it is a polluted industrial wasteland. This series aired for 2 seasons for a total of 26 episodes on ABC from September of 1993 to December of 1994, and then continued in reruns until 1995. This one is really good. I really like what they did with this series. From their hidden woodland village of Knothole, Sonic the Hedgehog and Princess Sally Acorn team up with a bunch of freedom fighters to try to take down Robotnik's regime. I like the character art in this one. I like the animation in this one. I really like some of the characters they brought into this series. This one's got Tails, it's got Roto the Walrus, and my favorite character of this series, that half roboticized Bunny Rabbit. This one is so good that despite its cancellation, fans really elevated this one to a cult classic. Some original characters from this series later even appeared in the 1993 video game Sonic Spinball, and the show also inspired the long-running Sonic the Hedgehog comic book series by Archie Comics. This is my favorite version of the Sonic cartoons. For some reason, I wish we had a Mario cartoon that was to this level, but we never really got that. For a period of time there, we had a whole bunch of video game inspired cartoons. We saw cartoons like Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, which is an interesting take on that video game series. Definitely worth checking out. There was also a Mutant League cartoon based off Mutant League football and Mutant League hockey. This one is very, very different, trying to ride that wave in the 90s of mutants and mutants being awesome. I don't know. This one is a bit hard to watch, not my favorite ones from this kind of era of video game cartoons. In 1994, we got a pretty epic Mega Man cartoon. From September 1994 to January 1996, with 2 seasons and 27 episodes, this Mega Man cartoon is pretty impressive. I really like what they did with this one. The animation apparently was supposed to be a little bit different. Originally, they had like $300,000 per episode for this Mega Man cartoon, and they kind of decided to rein that back a little bit and changed it up some. This is done really well. I love the animation in this one. I love that we see new characters. I love that we see old characters. There's bosses from the video games brought into it. Dr. Wily, Dr. Light, they're all involved. Mega Man looks like teenager-y to me. I'm not super sure why he's so ripped, but you know what? Great series. Definitely worth checking out if you're into Mega Man cartoons. This one from the 90s, fun one to watch for sure. This one was so good that there was supposed to be a spin-off series based on Mega Man X that they were gonna do, but they never did follow through with that. For a while there was some really cool cartoons like Earthworm Jim, Darkstalkers the animated series, and even a Street Fighters cartoon. Street Fighter the animated series aired from 1995 to 1997. With 26 episodes across 2 13-episode seasons. This one actually isn't that bad. This one is kind of closely based on the Street Fighter 2 series. It also borrows plots and elements from characters from the live-action Street Fighter film that we saw and the first 2 Street Fighter Alpha games. In this one, we see Guile as the leader of this international peacekeeping force known as Street Fighter. This one's cool because we see all of the characters we know from the Street Fighter series from that time. This is a really cool series. Yeah, it's from the 90s and it might be a little bit dated, but totally worth checking out. You can find this series on YouTube. If you're into Street Fighter, if you've never seen this one for sure is one I suggest you check out.
There's new attacks. New super combos. Killer graphics. And even deadlier characters. Just about everyone's getting into Street Fighter Alpha. Bring it home.
Never one to be too far behind Street Fighter, we had a Mortal Kombat series in 1996. Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm was released for 1 season of 13 episodes from September to December of 1996. This one focuses on that group of warriors assembled by Raiden to defend the Earthrealm from invaders who have entered through portals from various other dimensions. Now those warriors include Liu Kang, Curtis Stryker, Sonya Blade, Jax, Katana, and Sub-Zero, with Nightwolf functioning as kind of tech support and entering into the fray on various occasions. In this one, the characters and backgrounds are kind of most commonly associated with the movie, but this is another one that is really cool. The fact that this one went back to back against Street Fighter, the animated series, super cool to see those two franchises duking it out not only in video games, but in cartoons. This is another one that is worth checking out if you've never seen it before. We are coming to the end of the 90s. Things were really starting to change in cartoons for us. A lot of CGI stuff was starting to happen, and in 1997, we got Donkey Kong Country. Now, Donkey Kong Country is an animated series based on the Donkey Kong Country video games. This one takes place on Congo Bongo Island and is the first television series that was primarily animated using motion capture technology. This one is one of those ones that is CGI, and this is a really cool one. Definitely a little dated if we're looking back on some of those first CGI style animation cartoons, but this is a fun one to watch. This one does have characters from the video games, from that original Donkey Kong Country video game. We get to see Diddy Kong, we get to see Cranky Kong in this one, and Donkey Kong is trying to protect the Crystal Coconut from many different threats. Most notably is King K. Rool, who tries to steal it in order to rule Congo Bongo Island. This one is definitely one worth checking out. Super interesting to look back on those cartoons from back in the day. The last one we're gonna look at in this video is gonna be the Sonic Underground. Now this one is separated from any of the other Sonic the Hedgehog media. In this one, Queen Alina, the ruler of Mobius, has been overthrown by Dr. Robotnik, who seized control of the planet with his army of SWAT bots and has forced Queen Alina into hiding. In this one, we see Sonic with some siblings, which is kind of different than we're used to. This one is cool. It is a little bit darker. It is a little bit grittier. It is definitely got a bit of a late 90s feel to it. I like what they did, adding those new characters. I kind of wish we would have seen a little bit more from them, but you know what? Sonic Underground is one of the last cartoons we got in the 90s that was based on a video game, and it's a pretty good outing when we look at it like that. With so many other cool cartoons to watch as we were kids, a lot of these cartoons that were video game based probably got overlooked. A lot of them only had 1 or 2 seasons, but some of them are really, really cool.
It's Earthworm Jim blasting his archenemy Psychro. Uh-oh, when Peter Puppy gets mad, he turns into...
But first a word about Earthworm Jim 2 video game. It's out there.
bouncing puppies,
Falling grandmas, hungry heads, and some really weird stuff, too. It's like the worm says.
Ruby!
Earthworm Jim 2 video game.
Back to Peter Puppy.
I'm out of here.
His rage has transformed him into monstrous Peter Puppy, uncontrollably smashing the nearest thing, which happens to be Psychro. Earthworm Jim figures in video game.